the Hingham School Committee meeting of September 11th, 2017 at 7:32 p.m. And we would like to take a moment and to invite everyone who's with us tonight to join us in standing and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which was gifted to us by the veterans of Hingham. By doing this, we are acknowledging our commitment to all of us who are working together as one for the betterment of our schools at the beginning of the school year, our community, and the nation as we start this new school year. Think of the challenges faced by the communities in Houston and Florida, and also in remembrance of the events that occurred 16 years ago today.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. On to approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the school committee meeting that was held on August 14th.
2017.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Questions and comments. Audience comments are always welcome as agenda items are discussed. We've set aside time for anyone in the audience to raise something not on the agenda. Anyone have a comment? Okay. We'll move on. Superintendent's report. Good news first.
Oh, there's always good news, lots of good news. We had a wonderful start to the year. Relatively few first day things, like a few late buses, but not by a lot. And I want to give credit to Maureen Mahoney, who is the administrative assistant over at Transportation, because Patrick was in Ireland and didn't get back till later in the day. But everything had been well planned and the schedules were out, and most of the glitches had been worked out of them, so it was really a great day in consideration of that. And got positive reports from all of the schools. Just about everybody arrived on time. We had a minor incident at Plymouth River on Tuesday with a fire that was quickly extinguished, and no one was in any danger. We've repaired the electrical. It was an electrical incident, and that has all been repaired. But it was an exciting first day for our kindergarten kids, as you can imagine. And things went very, very smoothly. The principals needed a couple of extra days to sort out the enrollment. They did call in counts on Tuesday, but of course kindergarten didn't come and preschool until Thursday, so they called in another count on Friday, and today they're supposed to send me the official in writing count, but wanted some more time to work it out so that we had an exact count, because it was the first official count for the day. But I can tell you that the elementary enrollment was 1901, and that's down 45 from how we ended the year. So these comparisons are with how we ended the year last year, but in the end, when we do longitudinal comparisons, we always use the October 1. But we're down 45 students at the elementary. That was anticipated, so it's just about on target with what we've been projecting all summer. Middle school enrollment at 1076, again very close to the projections we've had all along, down 19 students. And the high school enrollment of 1254 is up 36 students, and again we had anticipated that the high school would be up. And so the total difference between last year at the end of the year in May of 4247 and where we are now of 4231, 16 students down. When you see the comparison with last year's October 1, I think it might still be up 1 or 2 students and not down, but over the year last year, there were more changes than we normally had had. So good news is the elementary enrollment, average enrollment is 20.7, and that's a very good number. However, we still have, I think, 4 classes district-wide out of 92 that are at 25, and nothing is higher than 25. So overall, it's still a very good number. I think that we need to look carefully as this year proceeds at the relative sizes of the districts overall, and may want to think about making some changes. South School continues to be our largest school and is growing, and I think that's a demographic a thing. It's a neighborhood kind of school, and the neighborhoods are in some cases affordable, and new families with younger children moving in there. And so South School continues to have the largest number. So in each grade at South, there are 4 sections. So there are 24 sections in all. And when we did our master plan a number of years ago, the plan for design as we move forward was that each of the then 4 schools would have 4 classes at each grade. Well, it never works out that there are exactly 4 in every grade in every building, but on the average that would be the case. And we're now at the point at one school where we're at a max and the other schools are smaller and still have some classes of 3. So that's another thing that we have to think about as we move forward, and just wanted to mention it at this point. So I think that's it in terms of the start of school. Vacancies and hiring. We've just about gotten everyone hired. You can tell by the on your agenda the numbers of people there are in the categories of the agenda where you're made aware of the number of teacher hires. And of course the list has been going all summer, but these are just the ones in August. And then the para hires, an extraordinary number of late para resignations this year, and therefore late hires. I think we're at the point where we're all set in that. However, we also have 2 upcoming vacancies, one that was unanticipated that will occur in both of them in November, I think. So in the one case, elementary case, where it's a special ed teacher who will be retiring, we have a person, it's at South, we have a person in mind for that, so we need to go through the hiring process, but have a person in mind, and the other individuals at the high school, and I know you'll be posting Rick for and interviewing for that position. So those 2 are upcoming, but other than that, we also had this year an unusual number of custodial openings, and the para thing was really unexpected. 2 or 3 food service openings that we had this summer, so it's been a really busy summer overall. And I think particularly in the case of the paras, if you track how our hiring process needs to go, in the case of the paras, the building principals interview those staff. They send the information down here. That information goes to John's office, where he attaches the information that tells on what step the person would be placed on the scale. Then it goes to Audrey, who puts together a packet. Then it comes to Pam, who sends a letter of appointment. And then it comes to me for signatures. And then it goes to Nancy to get put into the payroll. And then the person comes in here and meets with Nancy. So you multiply that by the number of paras, it really is extraordinary what the paper trail for that needs to be. So that's something we have to keep in mind. And the main thing this year was, it always happens that there are more paras, but this year it was late, which isn't the normal process. So I think unless there's something I don't know, that we are fully hired, and we met all of the folks. I would say on the website you can see not only their individual pictures, but the little video that we did on the orientation day. There really are 2 YouTubes. One of them is about the orientation itself, shows the people coming in and then the workshops they attended. But then there's also the greeting that each of them gave as they came into the orientation, and that finally went up yesterday, I think. So those things are there for people's enjoyment.
Great. Okay, any questions? All right, communications, number 5. Communications received by the superintendent.
Yes, Margaret sent along the updated coaching list, so that's there. There still were a couple of vacancies when you saw it last, and there are a couple of new volunteer coaches that are on that, and that is in your packet. We do have a new student rep, and she's unable to be here tonight because of soccer, I think, but she will be joining us a little bit later in the season. And she actually was at one school committee meeting, but she's a young woman that came with her dad in the spring. I think it was on the night that we honored Brad. Was that
Yeah, I
on
think
that
it
night?
was, yeah.
Yeah, and she was sitting here with her dad, and so that's for the student.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I got an email from the advisor of the student council last night informing us of Emma Quilty, and so I did offer to Emma, since she has other commitments, if she wanted to send in a written report, we'd be glad to share that. But, you know, we had Brad for 3 years, so another change, and we'll transition easily into it, and it'll be fine, so.
And lastly, there is a flyer in your packet that is from Town Hall, and it announces the training, the ethics training, and it's on September 26th, a Tuesday evening. There are 2 one-hour pieces to it, and there's more detail about it. It's kind of an expanded look at the laws, and not just what many of us have heard many times before. And so it's intended not just for people who are on the building committee, which is how I first read it, the new building committee, but really for any and all of us who are board members. And we think there's hope that on the town side that people will come even though they've been before, because there is this new information that will be presented.
Okay. 6, new business. 6.1, this is a annual presentation to receive the pre-K through 5 curriculum flyers for the 2017-2018 school year, and hear comments on the changes from 2016-2017. So,
Yes.
what's new?
I'm
in
very
elementary?
excited to be presenting these to you. So these are, as you know, our curriculum summaries, and they are handed out to the community on curriculum night, right, when the parents come in, when the community comes into the schools. And what they do is they provide an overview of the elementary program and all the related content areas. So, and again, they're an annual event, but I will highlight for you 2 major changes, well, not major, the two major changes to sort of highlight for you from last year's version. The first is the revision of the technology section to be reflective of the computer science and digital literacy framework, which elementary is rolling out this fall. And again, there's a slide here that will be presented to all of the community at curriculum night by the schools, highlighting the individual CS tool that the different grade spans will be using. In K1, they're using VBOTS. In 2 to 3, they'll be using Osmo Coding and Coding Jam. And in 4 to 5, they'll be using Dash and Dot. And so Katie Roberts is here, the science director, who has been instrumental in supporting this initiative and rolling out. And so the curriculum summaries themselves have been updated to reflect the change in name and also some of the individual skills that the different grade level students will be learning. The other major change to bring to your attention was we adjusted in the assessment section the MCAS administration. Remember last year where there was a potential that 4th grade was going to go online, and we made the caveat that it may be administered online. So this year for grade 4 it says it will be administered online, and we added the same caveat for grade 5, which the committee will vote on in due time, the administration for that. But we wanted to at least reflect in the curriculum summaries the potential that it'll be online. And those are the 2 major shifts.
And I would say that handing these out at this time is our response to the policy that says that the curriculum will be provided for the school committee annually, Now, for the secondary level, the middle school and the high school, that's done at the time that the program of studies is being put together. So typically in late January, the high school principal comes and there's a presentation of what things, if any, are new courses, changes in requirements, that kind of thing. So that's how we do that one. And then for the elementary, we use the curriculum summaries to let you know what's happening there and try really work to kind of kill two birds with one stone, that if we're going to share them with you, they could also be shared with the parents in the fall curriculum nights. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so not much new except the exciting computer science
Absolutely.
initiatives. We should, maybe Hingham should bid on the Amazon new headquarters with our students who'll be here trained to work for them. So 6.2, to receive the proposed school committee special reports calendar for 2017-2018.
And we put together a calendar like this and have for many, many years, just so people have kind of an overview of the year. But obviously with the changes, fairly recent changes in the open meeting law and how agendas need to be posted and how each agenda has to have the actual, each posting has to have the actual agenda on it. This is the overview, which we still will post just so people can look ahead to something they might want to attend. But there would be a posting for each meeting within the 48 hours that contains the full agenda for that meeting. And typically what we put here are the school council reports. There are, of course, 6 of those, and we do those in the fall, and so you can see which building is featured in each one of these. And then we do things like testing reports that are done annually, and we don't, I put a date here for when we could do the MCAS report, but we're really not sure exactly when we're going to get that, so that is something that could have changed, and that's the report for last spring's testing. And also we have here the departmental reports that are supposed to be roughly every 4 years, but we often get out of kilter there because something will happen in that we may have a new director in that department, or it may be that one report has to be postponed, but we try to do only 4 or 5 a year. So sometimes we have to move a report forward just so we don't get overloaded in the spring on those. I did add the MECO report here. We have a new director, and we haven't had that report for several years, so I put that one in. And also the CPAC report we typically have done in the summer. We could do it at a different time of year, but it is an end-of-year report, so that's there. And we do have a new athletics director, but that report still is here, and so we're hoping that that can go forward as well. We do have a new English language arts director. This really was a, kind of the perfect storm, so that's here. And we will have a new director of family and consumer science. That was another one that was to be up. I didn't put that on the schedule because we don't know who that will be. That's the position that we have to fill this fall. So there'll be some changing around of things here, but it's an effort to give people a preview of what's going to happen, at least the things that we expect.
Okay.
So certainly we can add that. I did confirm today that the GPA report can occur on October 10th because Heather can be here, so I would add that to October so that it is public and posted here.
And I had one question, I'm sure it's a typo, the CAT Terra Nova testing report?
Yes.
Do we still do those tests?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, but, so that's just a
But the date is,
typo, yeah.
yeah, I don't know how the date got there. So it's a testing report from last November, so that is from 16-17.
Okay.
There is a chance that we may have to rethink that the company has moved to a new,
Online portal system to
Right.
manage results.
and so we have not yet received, even after many inquiries, the report from last November's testing because of this changeover. So we use that test for two reasons, beyond the fact that it's a norm reference test and we don't give a lot of those, and it gives us some indication of how children do with respect to their ability, with respect to obtained score versus anticipated score. So it has uses like that, but in addition, we've used it and moved it to grade 6 a number of years ago so that the results of that would be one more piece of documentation, if you will, that could be considered when decisions are made, recommendations are made for student placement in grade 7. Well, we didn't have that test this year. The other big reason for using it is it's a test that we can use as a qualifier for the Johns Hopkins Talent Search. And well, you might think, well, that's just a small number of students. It really isn't. It's 150 or so students every year since our classes have been as big as they are. So it's not something we want to discontinue. On the other hand, if in fact they can't do better in terms of getting the results to us for the purposes that we are intending to use it, we might have to think about whether or not to continue that. I think there are some people who say, well, we do a lot of testing anyway, why do we want to do more testing? But this test is different. It's a norm reference test. It's not a standards-based test. It gives you some measurability with respect to how you do with respect to your peers here, and also with respect to your nationally, with respect to grade level cohorts. So it has some value to it, but we just don't know what's going to happen with that. Because in September, 10 months later, we don't have them. And Jamie talked to these folks and really they couldn't guarantee that it would be different next year. I think the other thing that bothers me about it is we didn't find out about the fact that they were moving.
Until we administered it.
Right, until after we gave the tests and waited for the results, and I think likely also paid the bill.
Correct.
So,
They got bought out, if my understanding is correct, that the company got purchased and they changed models and they had a bit of flux in but we have been on them literally every other week all summer to find out where they are. But
Okay, sounds
so
like
that could come off.
Pearson and Park.
So if there are any comments, things that you'd like to see on here, or different months for things?
The only thing I was thinking about, since Margaret is leaving, when is her last day?
Her last day is October 2nd. Jim's first day of being full-time, he's been in and out and trying to manage 2 jobs for a while, but his first day is going to be next Monday, a week from today. So there'll be a two-week overlap.
So I was thinking if it would make any sense for Margaret to do, instead of, because I see here that it is scheduled for June of 2018 for the athletic program review. I was thinking if it would make sense to have Margaret come and do a review now with Jim in the room, just to make it easy for him to, transactioning.
I don't know, that's a great idea. I wish that you had thought of it about a month ago. I'm not sure that Margaret, in the short time that she's going to be here, I'll ask her, because that is a great idea to see, and you could see what it's like. But the reason we tend to put them in the spring is that so the directors have, at least 6 months to work with their departments and get them ready. But I don't know. I'll ask
Oh,
her.
Carlos, when I saw that, I was thinking, if Jim's starting now, maybe we let him know what's happening. He should think about during the year, what does he see? And he could then use that as not just a regular 4-year report, but what does he see? What would what are his observations? And
Oh, actually, it is with that thought process that I brought that up, because you could still leave the June of 2018 review by the new director,
Yeah,
but now it's final review.
Yeah. Well,
by
I'm
the-
certainly
it's just
bring it
a
up to
different
them.
point of view of how the review is done. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Could do the
Thank
same
you. Just
thing. All right, let me explore that then. Good thought.
Okay. Great. Okay, so this, I'm sure, will be ever evolving schedule, but at least something to start with. Okay. 6.3, to declare 8 sailboats surplus and authorize the Director of Business and Support Services to oversee the sale of such boats to the highest bidder. The funds from the sale shall be deposited into athletic gift account, and Director of Business and Support Services shall be further authorized to use all proceeds of the sale towards the purchase of new sailboats. John,
Margaret has been in discussion with the boosters. The boosters had approached Margaret and said, we need some new boats. These boats are the original boats from the start of the program, I believe. I was told that they were all donated to begin with. And the boosters suggested that they would do some fundraising in order to purchase new boats. But then in addition, they were hopeful that we would allow the sale of these boats and to use the proceeds from this sale towards the purchase of the new boats. This would not be enough money here. There's 8 boats that are listed here. They may average about $1,500 to $2,000, I'm told, on a sale thing. And, but until the sale is finally done, I don't know. That's about $16,000 that could potentially be raised from the sale of the boats. I'm told that each new boat costs $8,000, so there's some significant fundraising that has to take place as well in order to, make a replacement of these boats. In addition to these 8, I know there were 2 new ones that was on the list that those are still in good shape, and those are not included here. With that, my recommendation is that we allow these boats to, go up for sale. The boosters will know how to place people. We can make sure that it follows the procurement laws and that we get as much value as we can possibly for these boats. And that since these boats were a gift to begin with, that the proceeds of those of those sales, we would deposit into the athletic gift account. And then when the purchases are made of these boats, we could expend from the athletic gift account in order to provide some help towards the purchase of the new gifts. Essentially. These were not town purchased boats, so therefore I don't see the need to send the money back to the taxpayer. I think it was an athletic gift to begin with, and depositing the money into the athletic gift account would be appropriate.
And for the audience, we do have the, on the list, the numbers, the actual vote numbers that.
Yeah, they were in the packet there. You don't want me to label, I'm not gonna rattle out numbers.
That's okay.
Letters and numbers, they're a combination of letters and numbers.
Okay.
But they're detailed on the document,
Okay.
and I'm talking about those specific votes.
So I'll make a motion to declare the 8 sailboats as identified in the specific list provided by John by their detailed hull number as surplus, and authorize the Director of Business and Support Services to oversee the sale of such boats to the highest bidder, and further to use the funds from such sale first to be deposited into the athletic gift account, and then ultimately further to be used towards the purchase of new sailboats.
Second. Okay. So, any discussion, questions?
John, you've been told that a new boat will cost in the neighborhood of $8,000?
New boats, yes,
boats.
cost approximately $8,000.
So if there's 8 new boats, that's what, $65,000?
Right.
Right. Is it your sense that the Boosters Club has that capacity to raise that much money? I'd hate to sell these and not have 2 or 3 boats.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that, I
Or you're
didn't
gonna
ask
stagger
that
the
question. There's some pretty, there's booster clubs throughout, the district. And some of them generate some pretty good funds, so, 65,000, yeah, minus 16 if they could get that, could they do it? I mean, last year we got a $10,000 donation to purchase a new boat, so there's.
Or maybe they could just
Stagger them.
yeah.
Stagger the sale, would you?
Yeah.
Our authorization doesn't mean we have to sell them.
All at one time
Yeah.
either.
Okay.
but that, it's
Great program, I
valid
just
point,
need to
yeah.
see something.
No,
Where my boat
I-
go.
Yeah.
I don't think that the boosters would put the program in jeopardy such
Yeah.
that,
But,
you know,
on purpose, but.
no, but I don't think anybody's being cavalier about it either. I mean, I would expect Margaret has been, you know, had talked to them and they have a reasonable plan and they wanna use the proceeds. You know, I mean,
But
I
it's worth
trust in
reminding
the
them.
directors having done the right thing and, you know, I
Backward.
support the approach,
Yeah.
you know.
That's very generous of them to be willing to replace the boats, so. Okay, anybody else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next.
Next one, okay, the second
Oh,
declaration.
I didn't even, the 6.4.
Okay, there we go. This declaration is for, to declare surplus van 129, which is a special education van. Many of you know that many of our vans, a few years back, they were approaching 7-8 years, and we realized we would purchase them all at once, and we had to begin a replacement plan of these vans. So, you know, we're in that cycle now where every year we replace one of the vans, or we get a new van to replace one of the vans. And typically what we'll do is we'll take the oldest one we have that is currently surplus, and, you know, that's currently spare, excuse me. You know, if it's spare, we'll take that van and we'll make that surplus, and then we'll move the next oldest one up to spare, or the one that's in the best shape. Okay, so, and Patrick makes that decision, and I trust him to make that decision. I don't take my mechanic over there, he does all that, and all Meg helps us, so, with this van, this is a 2007 Ford E250. It has 177,288 miles on it. The VIN number is also sitting on the document there. Patrick has done, you know, search on Edmunds and believes that the fair value of this van is worth at least $4,000. So my recommendation is that we declare it surplus, and that, you know, we try to offload it to the highest bidder through, under the procurement laws, and set a minimum bid level of $4,000 for that. Now, this money was in fact funded by the taxpayers, so the funds from this sale would return back to the town in the general fund.
Okay, I'll make a motion to declare surplus van number 129 as authorized in the document prepared by John with the specific VIN number listed, and to authorize the Director of Business and Support Services to sell the van to the highest bidder, with the caveat that we are going to require a minimum bid of $4,000, and the proceeds from the sale shall then be deposited into the town general fund.
Second, okay. Questions or comments? Okay. Seems like a safe thing to do with that many mileage on a van.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we want to get value for them, we don't want them to just sit around, they could rust, you know, we don't need that many spares, so,
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
thank you.
Okay. 6.5, to hear of final plans for the NEASC site visit to Hingham High School. It's been a long time in planning and a couple more weeks to go, and
I was just thinking today of the last, I'm smiling, but it's not a happy thought, but when we had the last accreditation visit 10 years ago on the Sunday meeting, a number of school committee were there, and we were waiting for the time to come when their meeting would take place, and we ended up having an unfortunate incident of having to call an ambulance to the high school to take a person to the hospital with a kind of an allergic reaction, and it was a member of the school committee, exactly. So hopefully nothing like that
no one eat
will
before you go.
transpire. So in any event, I included a couple of things in your packet, and then I like Rick and Jen, particularly because Jen, we congratulate for all of the work of serving as the kind of the general chair of the steering committee and overseeing the production of the report and all of that. So thanks to Jen. But I included for you the actual accreditation standards, and so they're in the booklet that's in the folder. And there are 7 standards with which we have to comply, and 4 of them are called teaching and learning standards, and then the other 3 are considered support standards. So in this booklet, they describe the standards, which is a standard is written as a paragraph, kind of a brief paragraph. And then beneath that standard are indicators, and one has to produce evidence. And usually in the final report, the evidence is in the report as a link. So instead of getting what we used to get, great big piles of things for the self-study, now what you get is a fairly concise report, but then links to all the documents that are available to support it. So the standards are here, and I think they're worth your reading. And then at the end, I've included a single sheet that is the rating guide. And this is the guide, they're rubrics, that the visiting committee will use at the end of the visit. And they will consider in giving us ratings things like the report that we wrote, the activities on the visit. The visit includes a tour, it includes talking with the people who did the individual self-study reports. It includes meeting with some parents and meeting with some students and actually shadowing students where for a half a day, a member of the visiting team will be paired up with a student and will follow the student to the various classes and what other activities he or she might be involved in, and what they hear from groups like yours. So we now know the schedule, although it's still somewhat a work in progress, but we do know that the time that's scheduled for some of the visiting team to meet with some or all of you is on Sunday at 2:15 in the afternoon. So certainly not a requirement that you come, it's an invitation, and I think there's a great deal of interest and a lot to learn from the activity.
And where is that meeting? Where?
In 132. So there are lots of plans that have to go into making something like this happen. So Jim, why don't you explain a bit about how many people are coming and where are they staying and what are those kinds of logistics?
Sure, so
Can you come to a mic?
Oh, sorry. So now that the self-study is over with, it's kind of my job to make sure that the visit runs smoothly. So 16 people come, 2 chairs and, a chair and a co-chair, and then 14 educators. They could be superintendents, principals, they could be teachers. They run the gamut from English teachers to auto shop teachers and everything in between. Each one of those 14 is assigned to one of the standards, so there's a pair of people writing each standard. They're going to stay at the Doubletree in Rockland, and they'll take their dinners up there, and then we're providing them with breakfast and afternoon snacks and lunches at the high school. They can, and it is suggested, although having been on one of these, it can be, it can change at any minute. They are encouraged to sit with the students and talk in the cafeteria. Some like to do that, some prefer to come back to the room we assign to them and start writing. It's a big process. It's a huge undertaking for them, and we're very thankful. They give their time up, 4 days away from their own schools and their own families to come and do this very important work. So we're very, very thankful. Okay?
Great, thanks.
Good luck.
Rick, did you want to add anything?
Happy to answer any questions. I don't know if there's anything that you'd like me to speak specifically on. Happy to do that.
Did you guys have any questions? I read through it and I had a couple of small questions, I guess. So, in practically every standard, it refers to 21st century learning expectations. Is there a definition of what the 21st century learning expectations are, or are we self-defining that, or is there like a standard NEASC definition of that?
specific where it would be?
Well, Hingham has had a definition of
Well,
it
well, I
for
know
a long
that,
time,
that's
so,
why, so,
There is, and if you
Okay.
ask me to rattle it off right now,
No.
I can't do it justice, but
Yeah.
we shared that 21st learning expectation with the entire staff. We have a huge Google document, and it's by standard, and so there are certain things that are in everybody's file. And so the 21st century learning skills, which is typically, do writing well, reading,
Research.
using primary sources for research, being able to analyze and solve problems. Those are some of them.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
okay, but we self-define that?
No,
Or-
well,
no,
it's common knowledge that in
okay,
the
so it's just
educational
based
field
on
that's
common knowledge, okay.
yes, that's what they are. If you were to Google,
Yeah, it'll come
21st
up.
century, it would come up.
Okay.
Mhm.
See, a regular person thinking that, it's like, somebody must define it. Then in standard 5, let's see if I can find it. Under school culture and leadership, and number 2, it talks about, how we're fostering heterogeneity. And so I was just curious, I know that some of our classes are heterogeneous, but we have a lot of leveling, and so then it's not, but the leveling is appropriate to the students and to the best of their ability, whether it's, with special ed services or standard college prep or rigorous EA. So how does that balance with if they're saying fostering heterogeneity, but then,
I'd say diversified instruction.
okay,
I mean, if you
so,
have a number of children sitting in front of you,
yeah,
and the goal of the teacher is to teach in such a way as to teach at each level, even within the same class. And
Right.
so while someone may stand in front of the class and deliver a lesson, many of the assessments or the homework or the class objectives that they have to do during the class is differentiated depending on their level of instruction.
okay. Oh, so they're looking at the heterogeneity within one specific classroom to ensure it's still, regardless of the levels,
Well, it's
to
both.
ensure
Yeah,
that
it's
it's
both.
both, okay.
I was on the commission when this set of standards were written originally. They were adapted in 11, but in the prior iteration of those standards, they were there. And all schools have, if you look beyond just the academic program, all schools have heterogeneity in all of their elective programs.
Yeah.
And in some of our courses, I think particularly of the social studies courses where we have leveling, but it's leveling within the class. So you have a heterogeneous group of students in terms of their abilities and their interests and all of that. On the other hand, there's leveling with respect to different expectations in terms of mastery of material and assessment and all of that. So we really have both kinds of it, and I think if you would read the whole report, you'd see that all of that is posted. And if you also think of education broadly, even into including things like athletics and clubs and extracurriculars and all of that, things being open to all students. The focus really is on inclusiveness, and it reminds me a little bit of the discussion we had not long ago about eliminating as many as possible, eliminating some of the level 4 courses, so that more kids can be exposed to more content. That being said, it was controversial when that was adopted. And so there's always been discussion. There are 1 or 2 standards in here, and that's one of them, where there's a lot of discussion about what should the right wording for that standard be that really can best meet the needs of all kids, and it varies a lot from school to school to school. But we do have heterogeneity in all of our elective programs. We have a leveling in some of the English and the social studies courses in particular.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning that we were doing something wrong, I just
No,
wanted
no.
to make sure
No.
that we
But
were
you-
doing it right, so.
But you did pick out one of there are like two standards left, two indicators under standards left that still are very, very controversial. And definitely, we have already, there are new standards coming out, and we have the draft copy to review, and both of those two that have been really controversial. Some because it really conflicts with some people's philosophical beliefs, and in some cases just because different chairs can interpret it different way, and then in different ways, and then you're not sure that everybody's being treated the same way. But the other one is one that has to do with each student having a person in addition to the counselor. And we, of course, meet that standard clearly with respect to our program in the freshman advisory program. But we don't have a formal advisory program before that. Now, we can make arguments, for example, that 70% of our kids participate in athletics, so those kids get really close to coaches, and isn't that another adult in the building with whom the child could be familiar? But it's challenging because one chair may come in with a team to a particular school and say, well, I interpret that very literally. It means an advisory program at every grade level. Another chair, and I was that kind of a chair, would go into a school and say, gosh, I can see that they have relationships in these activities and this activity, and some schools might not have any formal advisory program, but in my mind as a chair met the intent of what the standard was about. But it's those two. So if that was the other one you were thinking of, it would have been right.
No, I was like, oh, this will be interesting because my own children had teachers they had good relationships with, but it wasn't one person all 4 years. It's like every year that there was somebody that had changed. And so I was thinking, oh, would that apply to this, or what are they looking for?
It's also all about the all, these standards are supposed to be, represent things that's important to all children, so, and some folks will be very literal and say, well, all means all, it means every child should have a special relationship with a teacher, and that doesn't always happen, so.
Yeah. But it's very comprehensive. I'm looking forward to following through on the process and seeing the final report. But thank you for all your hard work. I know you've been working at this yourself for a long time
And a
leading
lot of
the
other
charge.
people also.
And so we applaud the whole high school staff for going through this.
Great, I'll pass it
It's
along.
really exciting, so thank you. Oh, yep.
No, not for Jen, that's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Thank you. Is there anything we should be looking at before we meet with, like, is there a portion of the self-study that we should look at before we meet with the NEASC people, or can we
Well, the
see the
self-study,
self-study?
by NEASC guidelines, the self-study itself is considered a working document
Okay.
and is not a public document.
Okay.
So,
So no, we should just,
Well, I mean, I would read the standards and be
Right.
familiar with those that interact
I meant
with the
more
school
like
committee
from
and-
what they saw from us, like, is there anything we should be familiar with?
well, I think I mentioned one thing is that the most relevance to your role as a school committee is with respect to Standard 5. And in Standard 5, if you look down to indicators 11 and 12, those are very much about the interactions you would have. Now, in theory, you can look at every single standard and say, well, we fund this and we do that, and so they could ask you about anything. I don't know what they're gonna ask you about, but I would think they might ask about those two indicators because they are specific relationships. It won't be the whole team, because in the schedule, there'll be, there's one time slot, and part of it is for the school committee group, and the other part is a group of parents. So that committee of 16 people will have to divide up so that probably half of them might be with your group and half might be in the other.
And do you have a sense, just roughly, of how long we would expect this?
45 minutes, schedule is 45. Sometimes I've done a lot of these evaluations, and sometimes people have read the self-study, they come and they have a specific question about what you wrote. And in other cases, particularly the school committee, they might just come and say, well, so tell us what you think about the high school, and what do you see as needs, and what would you celebrate? So sometimes they just want to hear from you, and other times they might, having read the whole report, they might have specific questions. It's hard to say. And this is their first kind of formal activity. They come in the morning, they have an orientation kind of meeting, and then they have lunch, then they come, and this is the first like official thing that happens with respect to their having to do something or say something. And,
All right. So I'll follow up with everybody as we get closer to check on who's attending and make sure we don't start without you, so that'd be great. 6.6, to receive a monthly report of facilities projects completed in August and planned for September. Our maintenance team was very busy this summer. John, do you want to highlight anything? Once again, very detailed, great communication from Doug.
I'm always amazed because he gives us a list he's going to do in September, and then he gave us what he had done in August, and it's amazing to me that he never says we didn't get such and such done. Now, I've never really checked to go back and say,
Cross-reference
some of those
each
just get
month,
moved into the, but, never have we had something that was planned that didn't get done.
Yeah, I think another notable would be the playground at East, the board and place rubber that got in. That's a positive.
Don, to that point, there was something in here, did we reuse what we took out of East somewhere else? Shoot, where'd it go?
Yes.
Some
Which is great.
themes or something,
Yeah.
to reuse them,
Yeah.
Katie thought it would be a good idea, so.
Okay.
They're doing a lot of work. I mean, just about anything we bring up, they're hitting and attending to, You can see the amount of stuff on that to begin with. I mean, I talk to Doug often about it. It's like, okay, yep, that makes sense. We had some more problems with Foster with the blow down line, and but that's going to get repaired, and they're just constantly busy, constantly developing. We had the high school field, we had the Barry's been out on workers' comp for a while, so, that place is looking pretty spiffy, and we got a new person that's in that position on an acting basis, and we're interviewing, I believe, tomorrow to sort of replace it, because we're not sure when Barry's coming back. They're just, every single day they're making more and more progress. I can't possibly talk on every single one of these, but you can see for yourself, there's always a lot of work getting done. There's a good preventive maintenance program being done. The bleachers, we have the bleacher work continuing to be done because it's been under warranty. And hasn't been done correctly yet. But when we had a meeting with them, and when we did that, we identified we need a PM schedule for the bleachers. So you will put one of those in school dude, and that'll come up on an annual basis, so that we just drop some additional work orders and start getting the work done. It's a very much improved organization, and it continues to improve, and there's good leadership, and the rest of the people are getting trained as well.
That's great. And also, I got an email from Doug a week or so ago complimenting Barbara Pye, because Barbara has been doing a lot of work at kind of cleaning out at Building 12 and finding places online. Do you remember the name of the site, John, where she goes online to
Doug talked to me about that company.
So she's selling
So
stuff
she's-
based on the
yes.
town meeting warrant article that we can
Yes.
now
Well,
sell stuff
We,
on.
Gov Deals, we could sell stuff on Gov Deals, but also, Doug said, John, there's a company that the dump uses for reclamation of metal type objects. And so there's some stuff that we have that's of no value, we haven't been able to sell it. So now they're organized into, offload that stuff. You pay to have a dumpster brought in, you put it in there and they'll give you different prices for different things. So, we're not getting rid of stainless steel, but to the extent we have these old plastic chairs that have been sitting there forever and they have steel legs, well, they'll give you a mixed metal price, like some plastic and stuff. So we'll recoup any money that we cost to bring the dumpster there, but more importantly, we're gonna offload a lot of the stuff. and get
Somebody's
rid of a
taking
lot
it
of the
away
stuff.
and paying
Yeah,
us to take it away.
and you folks had declared it surplus a while ago, so, and we did peck away at the things that could be sold, so we'll make more and more space, which is good, because some of the stuff, it's nice to have it, but a lot of stuff there we haven't done anything with it for years, and,
Great,
we probably won't either,
that's good.
I know like Plymouth River's got some new cafeteria tables coming now, so there'll be 20 cafeteria tables. Now those could be valuable, we could sell those probably on Gov Deals. I know when we sold the old ones at the high school, some place from Connecticut came down and took 20 of them, so. But,
You
so
get
as
a
we go
movie being
along,
produced of the 1950s and they'll buy
Yeah.
those cafeterias.
as we go along with this staff there, we'll be able to make good decisions on what has value and what
Great.
we can offload and what we should really just dispose of at either the lowest cost or, the most money that we get for it, so.
Okay.
Once again, a lot of credit to that organization for, I have faith, I have trust in them, I believe they're making good decisions, we talk often, we talk every day. They give me a rundown of what's going on, and I think they're making some real good decisions out there and, setting the organization in the right direction.
Great. Okay. So we have 6.7 and 6.8, we have two homeschool applications to review
There's backup in the red folder.
and approve.
The first one is a repeat, one, and the second one is new,
That's one.
new this year's.
I think if you click
So
on
would
it,
someone like to make a motion? It's
back.
on the regular agenda, not the
Sorry, I
annotated
just-
agenda.
Where are the, I'm sorry, Dot, where are the packages?
In the.
No, they're here.
Oh, you have
There's
them. Oh, there.
backup
Got it.
with the actual plan, but it has some personal information, so we know you might have questions, but we don't put it in the packet for that reason. So it's, anytime we have a homeschooling, the information will be in the packet.
So do we actually name names in our motion? I don't
Yeah,
remember
we
doing
do-
this.
We do name the name
Yes, we have to name the
and the
name.
year.
Okay. So I'll make a motion for the application for home education filed by Joel and Sabina Yungton for Cosette Yungton, grade 8. For the school year September 2017 through August, well, it'd be June 2018.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Gallo? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then I'll make a motion for the application for home education made by Victoria and Stephen Warnick on behalf of Timothy David Warnick, grade 7, for the school year September 2017 through June 2018.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now,
And then you have all of the,
yes, so
Appointments.
6.9, we received notification of appointment of new teachers. Welcome to big crew. It's very nice to meet them before school began. 6.10, notification of appointments to other staff. New head custodian at Foster School, and a new high school custodian, food service technicians, paraeducators, Title I tutors, transition room. Oh, so the transition room tutor at Hingham Middle School, we have a permanent.
She's been identified.
Okay.
I haven't met with her yet, but she's ready to go, and Bob was going to be there for some time. I believe Bob O'Day, who was there last year to train her.
Great. Then 6.11, we had a number of advancements of the salary scale, which means a number of people have been working very hard at their course credits and advancing their education. So thank you to the staff for more knowledge. And 6.12, received notification of retirement for November. Rosemary Doran, the family consumer science teacher at the high school. Well, sorry to see her leave. Then 6.13, received notification of resignations. Unfortunately, we had a few teachers go on to promotions at other places, I believe, opportunities. So then 7, any 48-hour issues?
I guess a 48-hour issue is it will be necessary for us to have the an executive session that we
Yes.
posted, but that I told you last night, we might not need, but we do need to that.
So then, subcommittee and project reports.
I'm gonna do it now.
Okay. So under policy,
Yes, we did have one thing we wanted to bring up from policy. We've had a request from the Hingham Sports Partnership to hang a temporary, one of those big plastic banners along the fence that is on the school end of the multipurpose field. So it faced the field and it says, "Go Hingham," and then, in probably 4/5 of it says "Go Hingham," and then 1/5 of it says Hingham Sports Partnership. So we've had a request from them to hang that for this season now, but then it's a temporary measure. They're in the long run looking to talk with us about a more permanent recognition in the area, in the general fields, area there. So we didn't think a policy that the temporary thing rose to the level of making a policy for it, so we figured we'd just bring it to you guys to discuss tonight, and then we can have further discussions with HSP about the longer term efforts.
So, sorry, are we discussing
The
this
temporary,
banner in
yes,
particular
the
or temporary banners in
This
general?
specific
No, just-
temporary
okay.
banner, yes, the HSP one.
Okay.
So.
they did have permanent signage at the old, when the bleachers were on the other field. And they contributed to the fundraising of the existing multipurpose field, and they contribute quite a lot of resources to the whole community, let alone the high school community. So we would then, we'll talk with them too about more permanent signage, but which,
It's actually good looking and it can be removed and,
I have no problem with that. I think it's a great idea, to recognize
Yeah.
our partners. My only concern is once you open to one, you have to be cognizant of the fact that other people may come up and offer to do the same. And so what would be your argument?
Well, that was discussed in policy today. Personally, I have no problem if PTO wants to hang a sign, or the school department, anything affiliated with the school. Our concern was commercial signs that, but it does set a precedent.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great deal of concern and angst as we built in step by step the existing field, and there was a lot of time spent on signage.
Mm-hmm.
And the implication being it is how that group wanted it to be currently? Or,
Town restrictions.
Town restrictions from,
You're catching me off guard.
okay,
I'm just trying to remember, but it was a group, there was, issues were raised about signage,
okay,
with the exception of, in your mind's eye, picture the scoreboard.
yeah,
That's a big sign, but it's also been donated by, and that particular
right,
donor is identified.
yeah,
do you think so?
That just wasn't done.
Well, that's why we thought that the permanent thing would have to let rise. to
I think it's a
level.
great idea. Please don't
Yeah.
don't misunderstand me. All I'm saying is that there was a lot of effort, a lot of concern, a lot of work was done
okay,
for the signage that we have up there. There's signages, donors are on the face of
Right.
the concession stand.
yeah.
Uh,
All right, so why don't we have talked about, I talked with Cynthia about this, since Cynthia's chair of policy, and the request came through Dr. Gallo and to me. So we had talked about, we should double check with Carol with a Y Falvey and Carol with an O Falvey, who were very involved at that time as school committee members with all of that. And Ed, you were too.
Yeah.
To get the history of, why the previous signage from the old field wasn't just put back on the new field. So let's double check that, and just to make sure that we're not causing a challenge. But this is temporary as opposed to permanent, so
Right.
I think we can. And they are a good partner, so I don't
yeah,
wanna,
yeah.
I know, I just hate to postpone it too long because
Right.
the whole
Right.
point is this football season.
yeah, yeah.
We're already at the first
No, I'm
game,
like,
so-
tomorrow,
Yeah.
we can double check, and I know Hingham Sports Partnership wants an answer, so.
Can we take a poll or whatever, or agree to, yes, John? you had-
I just want to just add a little bit. So during the construction, or really the fundraising
Right.
for the field, the signage and the signs they're largely a function of the fundraising. There was certain dollar values that were associated with having your name put at a certain place. That's how we got the scoreboard. That was a $35 donation from Best Chevrolet, and we appreciate that.
35,000,
As
yeah.
well as the lights.
Yeah, I mean,
These are
so
the
certain
four
things
lights.
had different things.
Yeah.
We couldn't name, we didn't do any naming, but we did,
Yeah.
we did signing. Naming would always be an issue. Now, the HSP, clearly, that money could never have been raised without HSP. Not that they raised all of it, but even HSP itself has made significant contribution to that field, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. They had made payments of $25,000 over the past 5 years, and I don't recall all the numbers, but they put in a significant chunk up front too,
Yeah.
as well as the commitment. And I don't believe they ever got their name anywhere
Right.
for that.
Yeah.
And they were instrumental in
Yep.
raising the funds, so I just throw that
well
out there, and,
deserved,
you know,
Right, that's
they've
why-
paid for whatever they
Yeah.
might get, in my view.
That's why,
you
I
know?
guess that's why I wanna reconfirm if there was a reason why.
Yeah.
It just,
And one other thing, yeah, and I'd like to also find out too if any of that reason had anything to do with neighbors, because now, I mean, adding signs that people can see from their homes with everything that we know that transpired as far as the field construction, I just want to tread very carefully about adding to what they're looking at and being sure it's tastefully done and or as minimal as possible to be viewed from any place but the parking lot or the school. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want signs going up along the front that the people across the street would have to be looking at. So, I mean, we do have to factor that part into it
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I mean, this is, in the school end of the field facing the field.
Right.
So
It was the
I
end
wouldn't
zone,
think it would
yeah.
be visible.
Right. But that's something just moving forward from the policy perspective, we would probably want to be sure
Yeah.
to be restricting things as far as making them tasteful, their size, and the impact on the neighbors would be my only, not my only, but one of my biggest
For a
concerns.
permanent thing. And-
Or even for a temporary thing.
It feels like a temporary sign. I sort of feel like that's not like our purview for the school committee to decide that. Like I'm thinking, the drama club puts up a sign for their productions that they're doing. The holiday fair puts up a,
But this is going to
puts up a
be,
sign.
we're
This is for
talking
the
20, 30 feet long,
But like the
outside for 3 months.
Okay.
So it's not just a poster for a couple of weeks in the building, or it's a little bit
They're
more
outside, like
significant.
on the
At-
softball
Yeah.
Yep.
things. There's like a, I don't know. It just feels like that should be a school.
Fine with
Rick's
me.
decision.
Dr. Gallup.
I mean, sort of, not to put it on you, but it sort of feels like that's.
You won't see that from.
It's temporary, I mean, permanent for sure, but I feel like temporary, a banner you could take down if,
Yeah.
and it just says go Hingham, I mean, it's pretty innocuous, it doesn't say,
Well, there's a big,
it's not HSP, go Hingham, it's go Hingham, HSP, you know what I mean?
Well,
It's
yeah.
not like a huge, and it's not a corporation or an buying a logo.
Is there any recommendation from Rick, Dr. Gallup?
I think we should always approve things that are temporary. They're advertising things that the school does. I understand that at the game the other night, there were some signs, temporary albeit, but that nobody asked us, to my knowledge, whether they could do that or not. And so it's kind of ironic that at the same time we're talking about, a partner organization wanting to put up a temporary sign, and did do the right thing to come and ask, and these other folks, whoever they were, because I can't seem to get to the bottom of who put those signs there. Margaret was out today, and that was why she didn't get back to me, but,
There were 6 of those.
excuse me?
There were 6.
6 signs.
Did you see that?
And they
So
were
do you-
commercial. Is that not correct, Ed? They were
Yes, yes,
commercial.
ma'am.
Commercial signs?
And I think all of us feel differently about commercial signs.
Right, absolutely.
yeah.
So do you think it should be?
That's why I raised the point. I haven't had a chance to.
Well, I don't believe there's anybody authorized to have commercial signs hanging in that facility.
No, but
Could we take them
nobody
down?
could seem to identify
We got
who
a
put
pair of
them there.
scissors.
Try to take them down.
Yeah.
Well, they're gone. They were just there for the game, as far as I know.
as soon as the game ended.
So do you think it should be the school department's decision, the facility's decision, if it's going to be just a temporary?
Well, I have to say that I feel kind of in the middle, because when they came, Margaret let me know that they wanted to talk about some different kind of recognition at the field, but that they had a plan that they would like to get approved, and what would be the steps to get this banner approved. So I said, well, it seemed that it's a policy matter, and so I gave them the steps. The policy committee would need to act and make a recommendation to the school committee would need to vote and so on, but then as I thought about their request and thought about the fact that this was really only going to be temporary anyway, I felt I kind of misled them, because if it's strictly going to be temporary, whatever they do that's more long range or more permanent, if they do anything, really has to go through that process. But I'm not sure a temporary sign should have to go through that kind of process. And then I felt terrible when yesterday I find that people who weren't authorized to do anything, and never would be, I think, with the school committee in this town, would commercial signs be appropriate?
Yeah.
I felt badly that I had misled them, and now they're being discussed at this level. But a temporary sign, you're right, we do it all the time when we're advertising things, whether it be, you know, for the drama productions or many of the other things we do, PTO fundraisers, you know. There are signs, we try to be respectful of town bylaws and not allow any signs that, you know, would violate the size there. We haven't had a problem with that, but other than that.
I mean, I don't think any of us have a problem with this sign.
No, not at all.
So,
And if Rick doesn't have a problem with it, then we're all good.
Yep.
So
But
we-
I don't wanna speak for Rick.
I mean, obviously, if the sign was saying something offensive, no matter who put it up, we'd want to be aware of that and do something about that.
But just to clarify, it says go Hingham.
Go hang it.
But about
With an
60% of it says
I
go
mean-
Hingham, and then the rest of it is just,
HSP with their website.
yeah, with their websites.
It's not forever. It's a temporary sign that
It
can be
actually looks
removed if
lovely.
needed.
Yeah, so I would think that would be either the school departments or that facility's decision, not ours.
Oh, so we'll worry about the permanent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you get to police everybody else putting banners up. How many more Friday night games are there?
I wasn't here tonight either.
Are we to vote on that?
I don't think we need a vote.
We're deciding we're gonna wait and make a decision on a permanent, but for this temporary sign, we're just gonna consider it like any other temporary sign that school activities put up, and we're gonna let the school decide whether to let it go, and probably it's gonna go.
Sounds like
Up,
a good plan.
not go away.
All right,
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
sounds good.
Oh, and we met today, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed. Talked about that.
So salary negotiations, we
At
don't
this
have a
juncture, we have nothing to
report.
report.
Kay, community outreach, do you have anything
We're meeting this week.
particular? Okay.
Let's see what, 13th?
Ed, I want to mention.
Yeah, Ed, do you have,
The long range planning did a fire station, a walk around at the fire station on August 17th. I found that to be a beneficial meeting, well attended. John and I have spent some time with the rep from Dan Clayton, Paul Raish, along with Doug, with respect to some warranty issues at the high school stands, and Doug mentions those in his monthly overview. Michelle and I went to the new teacher orientation. She probably wants to say something about that. I found it beneficial. I met our new Chinese teacher, who happens to be my neighbor across the street, as well as an old friend of mine. And again, Michelle and I went to the convocation with David McCullough, and he was just terrific. And kudos to his host. That was outstanding. And the building, Foster School Building Committee had our walk around. I think it was last Thursday. It might have been Friday. I don't remember. And our first meeting, in fact, is this coming Wednesday. And lastly, I just want to thank Jeff Peasy, the maintenance supervisor here at Town Hall, for the correction repair of our screen.
Phil Philippides.
Say again?
Phil Philippides.
And
Phil Philippides from HCAM. Phil was the
Phil-
one that
Philippides from
we
HCAM.
reached out to him. We were
Thank
going to
you,
do
John.
it, and he says we have some equipment for that. So, you know,
those who don't
the
know
combination of the
It's not shaking anymore.
of you lighting the fire has successfully alleviated the shaky screen issue.
We can have the air conditioning on
Nice to
with
be able
the,
to- yes,
with the
it's
screen
fine.
projecting
And
without
the
it vibrating the
Same
whole
time.
time.
I gotta fix the noise.
And also, you can see the bottom of the screen.
Adjusted, yeah, looked
When they
good.
tried to fix it the first time.
They tilted it, yeah.
okay, special ed had not met since we had met before, our last meeting. There's a CPAC meeting on Wednesday night, and probably after that, then the special ed subcommittee will reschedule for next updates. but, one of our goals was the follow-up on the,
Social media.
the 5 pillars plan, and the special ed subcommittee, and they're waiting for the RFP information on the middle school, so we're kind of waiting for some more activities to occur, so. So that, I believe, is it on, unless anybody else has anything, and then we will adjourn to executive session. Want me to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining with all units, the public discussion of which may be detrimental to the committee's bargaining position.
Second.
Okay, and those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.